NHL is horrified of what is happening in Edmonton. On the heels of Connor McDavid's record-setting extension and Jake Walman going for 7 years, the Oilers have made another massive signing of the most underrated key of their team in Mattias Ekholm. We got to break down the most recent signing, what it means for the Oilers, and why what they're doing sends a message, and a scary one at that, to the entire rest of the NHL. And Darius, I think we should just start by looking at what the Oilers have started doing in the past few days before we get into Ekholm, because that is really interesting, and you'll want to stick around for some very cool stats on that front. But look, we know the captain, Connor McDavid. I mean, probably one of the best contracts in sports history. I don't think it's crazy to say that, Darius. 12.5 mil for 2 years. He is the best hockey player in the world. So right now, I think, Darius, that set the precedent for everything else that the Oilers are doing. First off, it sent the message that, like, look, we're not effing around. We are going for it right now. Connor is the one that suggested this price tag. He wants to win in Edmonton, and we started to see the dominoes fall soon after that. You can imagine some more is coming. But again, this start of this message is, I do think, scary for the Western Conference and the whole of the NHL, because when you have a guy like McDavid and you have other guys that are willing to stick around and buy into this vision, it starts to look pretty freaky.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, this set the tone. The Oilers' offer wasn't even this low, but he came in and he said, I'm going to sign for exactly, again, it's only for 2 years, right? But you get 3 years of him still. And it's exactly what he was making before. So he's setting the tone as the captain and putting the pressure back on management, saying, do something with this cap space that I'm giving you, because realistically, let's be honest, he could be making $19 million. If Kaprizov is making 17, and Kaprizov's a great player, love Kaprizov, but Connor McDavid is the best player right now in the National Hockey League. He could be making 19 million. So with that cap space, the Oilers are making moves. They go out and they sign Jake Walman to a 7-year deal at $7 million. And a lot of people thought it was pretty rich. Listen, the cap's going up a significant amount every season. You want to lock guys up who fit into the culture, who fit into the team. This is a really, really good puck-moving offensive defenseman. We saw it in the final. That's where his value really, shined through for me, Josh. I thought he was great in the final. He scored a clutch goal, right? He throws the body too. Like, everyone likes to throw offensive defensemen out there and that they're soft, right? Everyone's maybe Adam Fox or something like that, right? Like, that's not the case. He's a really physical defenseman. So you needed to sign this guy. And again, all the advanced analytics, he's going to be a great player next year, right? And he just continued to build that confidence since he was traded for. And this is kind of the thing that you were talking about too, setting the tone with his contract. Look at this quote from Jake Walman on captain Connor McDavid. This is a guy who sets the tone and means business. Heading into this year, we mean business. We're going back to the Stanley Cup final and we're going to win the Stanley Cup. I want to throw it back over to you now, because this is the most recent move. Again, using and weaponizing that cap space that they have now, especially because they know what they're going to have in the future for the next couple of years. They then go and sign one of the most underrated defensemen. I didn't realize some of these analytics, to a 3-year, $4 million contract, which for his numbers and what he brings to a team, I think is a bit of a steal, Josh.
Yeah, it's really interesting too that, like, him and McDavid both kind of just continued at the same AAV. Like, right. You can see they're capped 4 mil by 4. You're just like, let's take him for another few years, right? So it is really interesting. But as you can see here from Jay Fresh's card, 96th percentile in WAR, or wins above replacement. Basically just a measure of how good you are in general compared to the rest of the NHL's defensemen. His even strength offense and defense has been unbelievable. Even his special teams a little bit. PK, yeah, is not amazing, but he can play that role. He's great at setting up other players. He's great as a shutdown guy. He is the glue guy to this decor. And again, if Edmonton had, there's two key things that stand out with the Edmonton Oilers, right? Their goalies is the number one thing, and that's not really a topic for this video, though I think we will talk about it in a bit. And it is kind of the rich defensemen that they have with Evan Bouchard, with Darnell Nurse, and now again with Jake Walman and Mattias Ekholm. But Mattias Ekholm, Darius, is about to bring way more value than $4 million. The reason it's so cheap is because defensemen, especially ones who have a bit of an injury history like Ekholm does, at this age, you're signing them until they're 38, 39 years old. It's hard to predict when that rapid decline could happen. But for a guy like Ekholm, it might not, because he's just such a smart player and he works so well, so fluidly with everyone else. And you can see here Dom Decision saying, my model still loves Ekholm a great deal thanks to his strong resume. We'll see if he can bounce back after returning from injury, but as long as he can stay at a second pair level, this is a great deal. Top comp, Ryan Suter, who did stay at that level. And you can absolutely see a world where Ekholm brings that value way higher than $4 million. Walman, again with the rising cap, is worth that $7 million, and that'll help alleviate the cap hit of maybe a Darnell Nurse who probably won't play to that $9.5 million level. Though again, as Oilers fans, you'd probably you never want to count him out, right? I think he could come back and play decent. And with the cap going up, it's going to make all of these contracts look better. And so when you look at the overall landscape of their team, Darius, like, this puts the Oilers in a very interesting situation cap-wise, leaving them with $2.7 million this year.
Yep.
But the big implication is for next year, where they have almost $19 million in cap space with McDavid's extension, with Walman's extension, with Bouchard, with Nurse, with Ekholm. So, and of course with Draisaitl and everyone else as well. But these are the most recent ones. So, it's kind of scary to look at that. If your other teams, you're like, they're getting some discounts. They're getting more than fair contracts from the guys that are the biggest keys to winning for this team, like an Ekholm and even like a Walman. Again, I thought in the playoffs he looked good. He's intense, like you said. He fits very well. So to me, the Oilers now have the ability to move on from maybe certain players, even some nice young guys in the lineup like Isaac Howard, who could do well, Noah Phillip, this kind of stuff. They have the ability to go fill some of those voids and fix some of the weaknesses in this team for multiple years to come throughout this whole McDavid window here.
18 and over, a little bit over $18 million in cap space next year with all these contracts in place, right? And like you mentioned, that's Ekholm's extension. That is with Bouchard's extension that kicks in this year. Nurse is still on that contract, right? You have $18 million to go out and fix this team. And that's Connor McDavid putting the pressure. Look at the landscape of the NHL. A guy like Mitch Marner, let's say, for example, right? Where he was like, I really want to win in Toronto, but I'm going to make as much money as I possibly can, right? To my value. And Connor McDavid could be making 18, 19 million dollars, and he's saying, no. I'm going to finish what I started here. I want to win a Stanley Cup, do something with this cap space, right? And I don't know why he's not pictured here, but they have Connor Ingram now as well. And when you look at the landscape of the team, to me, when I look at this, there's nobody, when you look at how much you have to take out of that 18 million because you have to sign, more extensions next year, nobody of significance to me. Yes, Kapanen, that's not going to be a ton of your cap, right? Henrique's been a great player for them. Maybe they find somebody else to play that role, maybe at a cheaper cap hit, something like that, right? We have to see how this season goes as well. But to me, nobody of significance is due up, right? That's going to eat a bunch of that cap, right? You have $18 million that you can go out and get a goaltender, right? Because both your goaltenders who are pictured here, besides Connor Ingram, are up at the end of the year. Maybe you go out and get a goalie finally. I still think that this team as well, I don't know how you feel about this, Josh, is going to go back to the Stanley Cup final again this year. I do, because they just will themselves mentally to win. They're not the most skilled team the last 2 years even in the Western Conference on paper, but they will themselves to victory. And I have to say, again, I'm curious for your thoughts on this. I do not think they're going to run into the Florida Panthers again this year. They've played way too much hockey. It would be 4 years in a row. They have a bunch of injuries. I feel like they'd go up against another team that is inexperienced. They would have the experience, and it could be time for them to win a Stanley Cup. And if it doesn't happen this year because they have too much inexperience throughout the lineup, look at how much cap space they have moving forward. I'm surely they can put together a team that can win the Stanley Cup in the next 2 years. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think that McDavid has set them up for success here.
Well, it's hard to bet against them. And again, it seems like the players rally around him. I mean, that quote from Ekholm, it means a lot, right? And I think a lot of the guys in the locker room see McDavid as, again, that leader to them, as they should. He is the captain. And, with this expiring window, a lot of these guys even aging guys, even like Ekholm, I think I said he's continuing $4 million. I think that's what Jay Fresh's thing said.
Yes.
Last year was $6 million, though. I think his original cap hit was it retention. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Regardless, we're talking about these aging guys, right? And they know you're here with Connor McDavid. You got to win. Like, you really, really, really want to win. Even a guy like Henrique who's expiring. I said, well, here's my chance, right? And there's so many other guys who are like, every moment that we get to play with Connor McDavid is the chance to go out and win the cup. It's a chance to go to the Stanley Cup final, Darius, and I think it's hard to bet against them. It's a team that's proven, despite the doubters constantly over the last number of years, that they can get there. They almost finished it off, right? Like, they can make it right to the end, and it's just a matter of flipping that switch and finally getting it done. And I think now they have the flexibility, not only this year with a nice roster with a couple of young guys too, like you got Savoie, you got Howard, but you also have the potential with cap space over the next few years to fix some issues as well. So I think it's a scary thought for the rest of the NHL. Leave us your thoughts on this whole situation down below, because that'll do it for this episode of Hat Trick HQ. And hey, make sure you hit subscribe to get the latest daily news on all your favorite NHL teams, because only 28% of you guys are subscribed. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. We got a lot more where this one came from. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host Darius Domingues. We'll catch you in the next one.